Here's a question for you. 10 years from now, when you look back at 2025, what will you wish you had paid attention to as an investor? Because every decade has a few themes that quietly build in the background while everyone is busy chasing the obvious stuff. In the 2000s, it was IT, then private banks came in, and the investors who spotted them early are usually the ones who create serious wealth. Right now, most investors are watching the same stocks, reading the same news, and chasing the same themes. But there are a few manufacturing sectors quietly getting stronger in the background. And hardly anyone is discussing them seriously yet. So we did the homework. We studied the sectors, the businesses, the numbers, the risks, and the opportunities. And in this video, we'll break down 2 such themes and 6 companies inside them. These are not random momentum stories, these are businesses connected to AI infrastructure, aerospace, EVs, automation, and premium vehicles. Some of them are already becoming part of global supply chains. And if these trends play out the way the market expects, this could become one of the most important manufacturing stories in India over the next decade. So stay with me till the very end, because this video is packed with insights every serious investor should understand. Okay, so let's start with theme number 1, precision engineering. Now first, let's understand the bigger picture. The world is changing the way it manufactures. Global companies are trying to reduce dependence on China, and they are looking for countries that can manufacture high quality products reliably and at scale. That's where India is entering the picture. India's precision manufacturing industry is expected to grow at nearly 8% CAGR. And this business has a very powerful characteristic. Once a company like Airbus or Boeing approves you as a supplier, replacing you is extremely difficult because qualification itself takes years. You don't just send a sample and start supplying. There are audits, testing, certifications, engineering checks, reliability standards. So once you enter the supply chain, you usually stay there for a very long time. That's the mood. Now let's look at the stocks playing out in this sector. Stock number 1 is MTAR Technologies. They make extremely precise, complex components for industries like clean energy, nuclear, space, and supplies them to large global companies that assemble the final product. And their biggest relationship right now is with Bloom Energy, a company that builds fuel cell systems. Now about 60 to 65% of their revenue comes from Bloom. But before that sounds like a red flag, here's the other side of the story. MTAR supplies 50 to 60% of Bloom's core components. So the dependency runs both ways. Bloom needs MTAR just as much as it needs Bloom. Now here's where it connects to something much bigger. Bloom Energy's fuel cells are being used to power AI data centers. Brookfield has already committed around $5 billion to scale this out. Now let's understand the scale of this opportunity. Every 1 gigawatt order that flows through Bloom can translate into roughly 1,100 crore of revenue potential for MTAR. To put that in perspective, MTAR's current annual revenue is around 676 crore. So we are talking about single orders that could be larger than the entire company's yearly revenue. And Bloom has already signed a 2.8 gigawatt deal with Oracle specifically for AI data centers. So the demand pipeline is very real and the market has noticed. The stock is currently at a valuation of around 16,500 crore at a PE of nearly 242 times. That is extremely rich by any standard, which means the risks matter even more here. Concentration risk, we already saw. Bloom's own execution matters as much as MTAR's. And at 242x PE, there is almost no room for a negative surprise. Any delay, any earning miss, the stock reacts very sharply. Now let's move on to stock number 2 in this sector, Aequs. Aequs supplies precision parts to Airbus, Boeing and Safran. And they make over 5,200 different aerospace parts, making it one of the largest in India. But here's what makes Aequs genuinely different. Most manufacturers outsource parts of the process. Aequs does almost everything in-house, from raw forging all the way to final assembly. That gives them better quality control, faster turnaround times and much higher switching costs for customers. And the customer relationships show this clearly. Their average relationship with top clients is nearly 15 years. Now let's look at the numbers. In the first 9 months of FY26, revenue came in at 863 crore and aerospace itself contributed 86% of that. The aerospace order book stands at 7,657 crore that gives very strong multi-year visibility. Now another important advantage. They have a forging joint venture with France's Aubrey and Duval. This gives them access to a 10,000-ton hydraulic press. That kind of equipment unlocks some of the most complex aerospace components in the world. Now here's a development that really got people excited. Aequs has started supplying precision components for Apple smart devices. And getting qualified inside Apple's supply chain is extremely difficult. But once you are in, the relationship tends to grow very significantly over time. The current market cap is around 12,000 crore. Profitability is currently under pressure, and there is a specific reason for that. Their consumer segment, specifically a cookware joint venture with Tramontina, is still in an investment phase. High fixed costs, low utilization, and margins under pressure. Management says this is intentional. They are building capability first and margins will follow. The underlying aerospace business though is doing well. Now let's look at the risks. The consumer segment is still a drag on overall numbers. Airbus has been expanding its vendor pool, which could mean more competition. And the Apple relationship, while is exciting, it's still in very early stage and needs to scale before it justifies current valuation expectations. Okay, now let's move on to stock number 3 in this sector, which is Sona BLW Precision Forgings. This one has a really interesting setup right now. Let me walk you through it. So recently, two major European auto component suppliers, Niapco Europe and AIMS, recently went bankrupt. Why? Because they built huge capacity expecting EV demand to grow very quickly, but EV growth slowed. And they were left with high costs and weak balance sheets. Now here's the important part. This does not mean that EVs are failing, it simply means adoption is happening slower than the most aggressive expectations. And when suppliers disappear, global car companies need new reliable partners. That's where Sona BLW enters. Sona makes differential gears and traction motors. These are extremely important EV drivetrain components. They have manufacturing across India, the US, Serbia, Mexico and China, so they are physically close to wherever their major OEM clients are located. And 71% of their 23,500 crore order book is already linked to EVs. The company is now seeing rising inquiries from the European OEMs looking for replacement suppliers. And in auto components, switching isn't quick. So rising inquiries usually translate into serious committed business over time. There's another positive. The US recently provided tariff relief on auto components that directly benefits Sona because of its large North American exposure. And there is one more interesting development. Sona has partnered with Germany's Neura Robotics to work on humanoid robots and automation systems. Very early stage, but it shows management is thinking much bigger than just traditional auto components. The company trades at around 35,000 crore market cap and nearly 54 times PE, and the stock is currently near 565, close to its 52-week high of 597 rupees. So again, expectations are high. Now, risks include slower EV demand, rare earth supply issues, and global tariff uncertainty. From here, execution consistency matters the most. Now, two other stocks you can watch in this sector are Harsha Engineers, which is the largest bearing cage manufacturer in India, and Unimec Aerospace. They make aerospace tooling and complex precision components for global OEMs across aerospace, defense, and energy. Okay, now let's shift to theme number 2, which is auto ancillary. India is world's 4th largest vehicle producer. Auto component exports have already crossed $22 to $23 billion. And India's share in global component trade is expected to jump from 3% today to 8% by 2030. That gap is the opportunity. But the bigger shift is happening inside the vehicle. Cars and bikes are becoming smarter, more electronic, more premium, more software driven, which means the value of components inside every vehicle is rising. And companies benefiting from higher content per vehicle often grow faster than the auto industry itself. Now let's look at the companies inside this sector. Stock number 1 is Sansera Engineering. They make connecting rods, crankshafts and differential paths, basically the components deep inside an engine and drivetrain that the driver never sees but that the vehicle absolutely cannot function without. What makes Sansera interesting right now is how many things are moving in the right direction at the same time. Revenue hit an all-time quarterly high in Q3 FY26 at 907 crore, which is up 25% year-on-year. EBITDA margins improved to 18.1%, and the order book in peak annual revenue terms stands at 24,100 crore. That's very strong multi-year visibility. But here's what really stands out. Non-auto revenue, specifically aerospace and semiconductor segments, more than doubled in the quarter. A company that traditionally lives and dies by the auto cycle is successfully building revenue from completely different industries. That is very important. Exactly what long-term investors like to see. Exports are also growing strongly. A new automated crankshaft plant has started operations in Pantnagar, and they also have a joint venture with Japan's Nichidai. This gives them access to advanced forging capabilities and higher value global opportunities. The stock is at around 2,500 rupees at 57 times earnings, market cap of around 15,500 crore, ROCE at 13% and ROE at 10%, which are moderate right now and they should improve meaningfully as scale builds. The risk is still meaningful ICE vehicle exposure and auto cyclicity, though diversification is genuinely improving quarter by quarter. Okay, now let's look at stock number 2 in this sector, which is SJS Enterprises. SJS makes premium aesthetics for vehicles. Think decals, logos, chrome trims, overlays, and now display components. Basically, the parts that make a vehicle look and feel premium. So, as more and more people buy more expensive, more design-forward vehicles, what SJS supplies becomes more valuable per vehicle. This was their highest ever quarterly revenue. Revenue grew 36.4%, EBITDA grew 56.9%, profit grew 62.5%. But the most important number is this. SJS is growing 3.5 times faster than the overall auto industry. That tells you something very important. This is not just about selling more vehicles, this is about more value going into every vehicle. That is the structural story. They have entered a technology partnership with BOE Varitronics to manufacture automotive display systems in India. Things like infotainment screens and digital dashboards. This is still early stage, but it can become a very important future opportunity. Exports also jumped 146% year-on-year, and OEM relationships include companies like Mahindra, Hyundai, and Stellantis. The stock trades at around 1,600 at 34 times earnings with a net cash balance sheet and strong return ratios. The risks to watch here are dependence on the auto cycle, near-term margin pressure from ongoing capex, and the display business is still a few years away from becoming meaningful. Execution is what matters now. Okay, now let's move on to stock number 3 in this sector, which is Pricol. They make instrument clusters, driver information systems, telematics, and battery management systems. In simple words, everything you see on your vehicle dashboard. And as vehicles get smarter, more connected, and more EV-oriented, that layer becomes more valuable and more complex. That's the structural tailwind Pricol is riding. The numbers reflect a strong operational base. The company holds around 55 to 60% market share in India in instrument clusters, and it is the second largest such manufacturer globally by volume. 14 manufacturing plants across 5 countries and over 470 engineers work purely on R&D. Around 4.5% of revenue going back into innovation every year. Around 55% of revenue comes from instrument clusters and driver information systems, with the rest from sensors, pumps, switches, and growing EV-related products. One interesting strategic move, Pricol has signed an exclusive MOU with BOE, which is one of the world's largest display manufacturers, for backward integration of TFT and LCD displays. This improves both cost efficiency and supply chain control, which matters a lot when you're competing at this scale. The honest risk here is concentration. Around 90% of revenue is domestic and 70% comes from the two-wheeler segment. That's stable because of strong OEM relationships, but it also means any two-wheeler industry slowdown hits them directly. Exports are only about 5% right now. Scaling globally is the next important step. Valuation is around 7,250 crore at 590 to 600 rupees per share. Currency risk is also real since 45 to 50% of raw materials are imported. Now there are two more stocks worth tracking in this space. Bosch. Most people think of it as a parts supplier, but it's actually becoming a full stack mobility technology company. The next one is FIEM Industries. It makes automotive lighting, headlamps, tail lamps, indicators and rear view mirrors, supplying directly to OEMs. Okay, now let's bring everything together. The opportunity across these sectors is very real. Global supply chains are shifting, AI infrastructure is expanding, and vehicles are becoming smarter. EV penetration is rising and manufacturing complexity is increasing. All of that benefits companies with strong engineering capabilities. But there's one thing investors need to remember. The market has already priced in a lot of the good news. From here, execution has to be consistent. So don't just watch the theme, watch the execution. Now tell me in the comments which one of these stocks are you most interested in, and is there any one you want us to go even deeper on? Like the video if this helped you, share it with someone who's serious about building a long-term portfolio, and subscribe so you don't miss the next deep dive. See you in the next one.
Investments in securities market are subject to market risks. Read all the related documents carefully before investing.